These Ipswich Town players are defying the odds.
Hello and welcome back to TWTV, where you join us again outside Portman Road behind the South Stand or Churchman's, as some of us like to call it. And I'm joined by regulars and TWTD staff writers Phil Ham and Kallum Brisset. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello. And we're again in our Who Needs Pinewood or Elstree when you've got the Ipswich Town Central Travelodge. And thanks again to Will, the manager, for sorting us out. And let's get into it. I think the narrative before the game was eyes of the world on Portman Road. First game for Ruben Amorim, the sixth manager since Sir Alex Ferguson. Slip of the tongue. And an interesting game. Kallum, I'd like to get a kind of summary of the game and key moments from you, if that's okay.
Yeah, like we were saying, eyes of the world, and for that reason, I'm coming away from the game again really proud of the performance and proud of the players. Thought we put ourselves in a great performance. Come away from it feeling very positive. The occasion, didn't feel overawed by the occasion, and it could have done after 2 minutes when you get off to the nightmare start, the perfect start for Man United, with Rashford scoring. Possibly Muric possibly could have done better with that one to come and claim it. But from there, I thought for the remainder of the first half, we grew into it, and I thought we finished the first half the better side. And when the goal came, I thought we thoroughly deserved it. It was slightly deflected from Omari, and I think if anyone has deserved a Premier League goal this season, it's Omari, particularly in the last few weeks. I think he's been excellent. I thought he was the best player on the pitch again today, especially in that first half up until when the goal came. And it could have been more if it wasn't for Andre Onana pulling out a couple of big saves for United. One at 1-0, one at 1-1 in the second half. Both from Liam Delap, who will feel unfortunate that he hasn't got himself on the score sheet again today.
Yeah. I mean, a few things to pull out. We've talked a lot, haven't we, about eradicating the mistakes, and we did have one at the start, but then I think we regrouped, didn't we? And I think, as you said, Kallum, it was heartening how well we regrouped, and frankly we did dominate for the rest of the first half, and the crowd got going as well. Phil, over to you. What's your kind of overview of the match? What did you put in the match report this week?
Not much different to that, really. I thought, yes, first couple of 80 seconds, I think they scored their goal, didn't they? Which is, and yeah, there were a few mistakes, weren't there? I think early on in that, and it maybe Kieran spoke in the post-match press conference about how they weren't quite sure how Manchester United were going to line up, and who was going to line up where, sort of beyond that. And I think there was perhaps a little bit of kind of settling in at that stage, but I think Jens Scowcroft, he sort of, I think he sort of threw himself into a challenge a bit earlier than he should, and then Leif Davis was shaken off too easily, and then, as you say, I think there was a bit of a kind of, I think Dara O'Shea expected Aro Muric to claim the ball, and I think Aro Muric expected Dara O'Shea to clear it. So I think that's perhaps one of those things that happens when you've got a team that are still settling in a little bit. But this team has shown over the last 3 years, really, that going behind, it doesn't really impact them that badly, does it? I think that they just sort of got their heads down and played their own game, and I think but they grew into the half, and I think they grew in confidence. I think this is something perhaps that is a case of they're coming up against Manchester United and all the teams that players that they've kind of grown up watching in some cases and not expecting to face on a kind of weekly basis in the Premier League. And I think there's perhaps sort of they're kind of sort of getting into games and thinking, well, I'm as good as him, or I can compete with him, and so I think by half time we had the opportunity where Delap's shot was saved by with very good work from Leif Davies and from Cameron Burgess on that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That was a remarkable save, really, when you look back at it. And Kajjusta hit one over the bar, and I think at that stage a goal was coming, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then Hutchinson scored that goal that was almost a repeat of the first one against Hull last season away from home. And it took a little flick on the way, but it would have been a very difficult save for the keeper to make anyway.
It was well deserved at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
but second half, and Kieran said this in his press conference, that Man United had bigger spells in charge in the second half, and he compared it with the Liverpool game, where they kind of, and he said, ran away with it really, and they did. And in this instance, Town were able to cope with those situations, sort of defend in shape, and then get back, and then have their own spells from there. So, and he kind of cited that as a kind of illustration of how the team is growing, and how individuals are growing, sort of a heartening display. I know Manchester United aren't Manchester United as they were when we were in the Premier League on the previous two occasions, but a 1-1 draw with Manchester United at home is still a very decent result.
It's a decent result, and I think we've got our next segment with James Scowcroft, who's played against Manchester United with the likes of Roy Keane and Beckham, and he gives his view. And I think it was a chance to it was a good time to play them in a way, and it was probably a good chance to try and beat them. But I think having gone behind to still, as you said, come back and prosper, and I think you could almost see it in the crowd also believed. You go behind at home, but the crowd still believe because they know they believe in this team. And as McKenna's said through the week, we want to be the home side, and we looked the home side, didn't we? We were
taking the game to them. We were in control. Certainly in the first half, we were in control of the game. Even when we didn't have the ball, I think we were still in control of the game, because we were limiting United really chance-wise. There was a few little breaks, which was mainly just pace, really, wasn't it? And but other than that, they weren't creating very much at all.
That's right.
Certainly, their keeper made more
the better chances with us. Okay, Kallum, back to you. Could you kind of just outline the starting 11 for Town, and what changes do we see, and let's go through that. And then if you could start to pick out some performers as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, structurally, I think was the main thing. It was certainly more of a 3/5 at Tottenham. The one change today, Wes Burns coming back in for Ben Johnson, which I think made it more of a flat four, really, for this one today. But yeah, in terms of individual performances, the three names I want to pick out in different areas of the pitch. I thought defensively, Dara O'Shea again looked outstanding. I thought he was excellent at Tottenham, and he followed that up again today.
O'Shea was really mobile today. He was really getting around. He showed his
pace. We needed his pace.
Absolutely.
Phil mentions about Man United's breaks. That was kind of their main threat, was on the counter-attack, and they looked very threatening when they did burst forward. So definitely in that regard. Another player who was brilliant at Tottenham and I thought was excellent again today was James Scowcroft. There was one occasion in the second half where Garnacho was breaking away, and it was an outstanding last-ditch tackle.
Again, there was a moment where it was almost like scoring a goal. The crowd all got up.
So important.
And in fact, there was a brilliant moment with Kallum in the first half where Morsey did a lovely turn, broke into space, and then set Kajjusta free. And we were winning the midfield battle, weren't we, against some pretty strong opposition in Casemiro. Carry on with...
You mentioned about players turning and beating their man and setting us on their way. Another man who, for me, was the man of the match was Omari Hutchinson. He did that a couple of times in the first half, got the goal, which I touched on earlier. I think he not only deserved in this game, but has deserved for quite a few weeks. And again, it was first half especially when it comes to Omari Hutchinson. But there were so many occasions where he was able to twist in between the lines.
He was your man of the match.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And how do you think he got on when he moved out to the right when Chaplin came into the number 10? He still was effective.
Still looked effective. I think in recent weeks he's looked more effective on the right. But I thought today was his most effective performance in the central role. But it looked equally as good when he came onto the right.
And Phil, let's go back to you. Who was your man of the match? What other players would you pick out?
Omari, I think definitely. Both centre halves, I think. Apart from, of course, the error on the miscommunication, perhaps on the goal. But yeah, Kallum, I think he's looking really. I mean, he's kind of he's only played. Was that his third start? His full home debut, I think. He's not started many, has he? Full stop. So so he's learning the Premier, having to learn the Premier League very quickly, really, from playing in a league that's very different. So he's taken to it like a duck to water. Delap, I mean, I think he'll go home thinking, how on earth did I not score? I think Connor Chaplin will be thinking, how on earth did I not score? Because if
They
it had
were
gone...
good. I mean, I think maybe the narrative today is their keeper saved the draw for them.
Yeah, I think that's true. And their manager said this
yeah.
in the press conference as well. So
and you think my first thought was Delap should have put it in a better place for that chance in the first half, but actually it was just a fantastic save. The hand was out. It was a bit of luck from their side.
It was a good save. And actually, and the Chaplin chance at the end, I thought. If it had been a foot either side of the goalkeeper, it would have been a goal, wouldn't it? I mean, it was just unfortunate that it came to it. And we have to sort of say about Jack Clark, who I think has maybe has struggled a bit to make an impact in games.
Yeah.
The one chance he had to make an impact was that, and he created an opportunity that almost.
I like what he did when he came on. He was making a difference for us. I thought Ali struggled a little bit when he came on.
He looked short of fitness.
He looked a bit off the pace, didn't he? He wasn't able to give the press and Delap. And Burns had a mixed game, I thought. He did some good stuff while he was in position at times, but other times I thought he looked a bit lacking in confidence.
It was a danger in the first half, though.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of those chances, early chances, and the goal came from him, didn't they? I thought he made an impact down that line.
Just closing out performances. We're a £160 million team. They're on paper a £714 million team, and you could see around the pitch they had a lot of quality, but they weren't as joined up as we were. I thought,
definitely.
And I think. Their press wasn't aggressive enough, and I think we prospered very well in the first half, and in times in the second half.
Their manager said that he thought that they were thinking too hard, actually, which is interesting. I think they've had 2 training sessions, so I think he kind of meant that they were trying to kind of recall what they were supposed to be doing at particular moments, rather than being as instinctive as perhaps they might otherwise be. So that's the kind of thing that where we've got the advantage in some instances, because obviously we've got 1 or 2 players who've only been here. 12 games or whatever, but yes, I think that's the thing about
I think Amorim's talking a lot about identity. He wants all the players to have the same idea on the pitch at the same time, and they didn't look like that at times. They were a bit strong. We better move on, and let's move on and look at the sort of 3 words from the forum, which allows us to all summarise the game. So have a think about what your 3 words might be, chaps. So 2 points dropped, which I think I kind of agree with. I think as Scowcroft will talk about later on.
It's a little harsh to say it's 2 points dropped, but when you still 1-1 draw with Manchester United. Yes,
I think with the opportunities that we had, comfortable in the Prem. I think that's a good statement.
Growing into.
Just say growing into Prem. That'll work. That'll fine. You just cut out some words in the middle. Coming together nicely, and I think that's what I'm starting to see. They're all looking comfortable. I would say I'm a bit worried about the quality that can come off the bench at the moment because of injuries. I thought as a team we had come together nicely, but I thought if we'd had a bit more quality to come on, I think we might.
I think George Hurst coming off the bench would have made an impact.
Exactly.
And I think that's something to look to January.
Yes.
That we have when we lose a few people, then the bench does look a bit.
If we
lacking.
just had a bit more, especially up front, that would have been good. Andre Onana, MOM. Is that 3 words? Let's go with it. So, and I think he probably was overall for the whole match. Maybe he was man of the match. For that performance.
Yeah, without that, I mean, actually, their manager did say that. He was a key man for them. Without those saves, we would have won. And
could have won. And then last one is again slightly cheating on the 3 words here, but staying up. And James Scowcroft will talk about his views on our survival prospects a bit later on. So let's fly forward. What would be your 3? Kallum, put you on the spot.
Another proud performance. To be honest, the occasion, the eyes of the world on today, and I thought we showcased ourselves magnificently.
And I think that's it. I'm having messages from friends from all over the place, and they're all saying, well done Ipswich, you look really good. Phil, over to you. What would be your 3 words?
It's growing into the division. There you go, or building. I think Kieran talked in his press conference about this as well, about how the side is improving, and I think that's palpable, isn't it? Really, when you look at the early performances, I think we're great, and it's not about judging where we are now. It's about judging where we're going to be in May, and I think if you can see development between the beginning of the season and now, I think we'll obviously see much greater development between now and May.
Yeah, absolutely, and teams are coming here, and we are the home side. We are looking the superior side for big passages of the game against the likes of Liverpool in the first half, and for much of the game today against Manchester United. Okay, again, conscious of time, we're always running over because there's so much to talk about. But in terms of looking around the Survival League, so Leicester have lost their manager. Cooper's left Leicester. They lost 2-1 at home to Chelsea yesterday.
Their old manager.
Arsenal really beat Forest, our opponents' next next weekend, 3-0 in London. Palace were a bit unlucky to not win at Villa, 2-2 at Villa Park. And I think, again, they showed some of the quality they've got up front in that game. Everton 0, Brentford 0, and I think that's not a good result for Everton. You know, Brentford were down to 10 men for quite a large parts of the game. They kind of need to get a win.
First away point, is it?
Yeah, and Brentford, exactly, that's a really good point. Brentford have not been good away. Disappointingly, Wolves had a very good performance at Fulham, and they have some good firepower, which is starting to come. And Kallum, you've talked about this before, haven't you, about how
Good firepower being
yeah.
Mateus Cunha.
Exactly. Is he one of the form players in the Premier League? Probably. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And that's,
he'd get into almost every team.
And that's why, come on Everton, come and join us down here, because that'd be good. And then this morning, or lunchtime kickoff today, Southampton lost at home 3-2 to Liverpool. So I mean, let's close out. I mean, Kallum, if you want to help us close out, how are you feeling for the rest of the season now?
Yeah, optimistic. Not too dissimilar to after Tottenham. Just, you know, if we can show that we can put in performances like that, especially at home, we will start to win games at Portman Road.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. It's about getting that first home win at some point. But, you know, the performances in the last 2 home games, Leicester, we should have won.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today we marginally were the better side. Yeah. And could have won. So
and it was Manchester United with the talent. I know a new manager, but the talent they had on the pitch was quite something.
I would say, continuing on that, really, I think you would, if we had Leicester next, I think, or perhaps even Everton next, I think you'd probably, having put in the displays we have in the last 2 games, you'd probably fancy us more to win against those oppositions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we've grown as a team even since those games.
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to grow. So we'll close it out there. As I said, we've got the next segments with former Ipswich striker James Scowcroft, and he's got some really good views on the game and also our prospects for the rest of the season. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Welcome back to TWTV, where you join me, Jim Cooper, in our exclusive studios in the Travelodge Central, just behind Portman Road, and we're joined by former Ipswich Town and Leicester City striker James Scowcroft. Sco, thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem.
Great to have you on. Let's start off by just finding out, what are you doing with yourself at the moment? What's your current role?
Yeah, very busy. Work for one of my old clubs, Crystal Palace, in their recruitment department. So most weekends I'm all over Europe watching games. So yeah, extremely busy. But today, this weekend, sort of quite a quiet weekend. So I've seen Ipswich a couple of times this year. So came here today, and very interesting game.
Yeah, very interesting game, and we'll come back to your view of Ipswich through the season, if that's all right.
Yeah.
If I just ask you about your Palace role, is it a lot of travel, or do you do a lot through sort of data and video?
It's a bit of everything. There's a lot of travel, but a lot of it's video. It's video, data, everything.
Yeah.
So I've done it for nearly 6 years now. So players like Jens Kajus, I've watched Jens for 3 years almost.
Right.
He was playing in Reims in France, and so that's interesting. You know, there's obviously a huge database of players. So and that's good. It's a good club to work for. They've done very well. Nearly 12 years in the Premier League now, so
they feel well run, don't they? And they've got quality players in their squad. So let's get into it. So as an ex-player, as you said, it was a bit of a funny game. What did you make of it? Give us a summary view of the game yourself.
I thought Ipswich will never have a better opportunity than beating Manchester United. They had the better chances. I think maybe a little bit more belief. I think it was difficult for the manager and the team, because I think it's 75 minutes on 1-1. Do you push and get that winner and leave yourself open for to get beat? Like a point at home to Manchester United is a very good result. So I kind of get that, but I just thought Manchester United were there for the taking today. And look at the chances Ipswich had. There's some very good chances.
Yeah, I think it was. We talked a lot on TWTV about taking your chances and not making errors, and it felt like the first goal was maybe a bit of an error. There was a bit of confusion maybe, and then we did seem to have chances, but I think their keeper had some great moments, didn't he, to sort of keep us out.
Well, he was probably the man of the match, so I think that's a fair comment. So that shows you at times how the balance of the game went. I think Man United caught Ipswich a little bit cold. I do think Ipswich defensively have got a problem down the left-hand side. It's been a slight problem for them all season, and they need to sort of get a grip of that. Because I think there's too much space in behind Leif Davis there. I think he's very isolated, and United capitalised on it.
And Davies did seem to be struggling a few times, didn't he? He was beaten more often than we see, and I think I agree. We get a lot of joy through the left side. We get a lot of attacking threat through there, but we do seem open at times.
Yeah. I would think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. And then all the noise around the game was about Amorim. How do you think he got on today? What did you say? I mean, you obviously watch a lot of Man U. How do you think he did around setup? He brought a lot of players on, didn't he? And he's got a big squad of quality.
I think his typical manager's finding his way. Obviously, they changed their formation. It was different. They played Rashford as a 9. And at the start it worked, but I thought it was very disjointed for Manchester United. I think they kept the ball very well at times, but they kept the ball without really, off the top of my head now, we're only 20 minutes after the final whistle. I can't really remember the Ipswich keeper making a save. The only real effort is in the first bit. So I thought they were disappointing in a lot of aspects of their play. And it's why the last manager's lost his job. They are underachieving. And I just feel it's 2 points drop for Ipswich. Although it's a good result, they could have.
I think 2 points drop. Especially, we just grabbed the initiative, didn't we? In the first half, the latter part of the first half, we dominated. They were struggling with us. I think they came out a bit stronger, and then they threw a lot of subs at us as well, didn't they? Which was interesting. Who's your sort of man of the match from an Ipswich perspective? Who stood out for you?
I'm a huge fan of Sam Morsy. I think Sam Morsy is one of the best signings this club's made in 20 years. He was up against Bruno Fernandes is a top class player, but I thought Sam controlled the game as much as what he could. I think he stopped a lot of sort of passes into their front line really. I think Cam Burgess does very, very well. I think the two centre backs did very well. I think overall, as a team, it was probably more of a team display, but they were one or two of the individuals. I think the two centre-backs and Sam Morsy in midfield.
Yeah, I think both O'Shea and Burgess really were blocking a lot of stuff out. As you said before we came on camera, we did reduce them to some pretty limited chances, although they had quite a lot of threat. So just as we look to sort of close out, you played in the Premier League. In fact, you played here. I was here on that 1-1 draw when you came on against, the likes of Beckham. How's the Premier League changed now? Is it just a completely different level? What do you see as the changes?
The Premier League has changed in one big part. So back then, and I actually called it last night, so actually I was with some friends last night, so I think it'll be 1-1 today. The Premier League back then, Manchester United had a top side, and it was the era of the Arsenal Invincibles. Man United had just won the treble. Liverpool had, I think that year, won the three cups. The top end, I don't think it's better than what it is now. I think there were some elite teams then. If you look at the Man United team back then, it was very, very strong. What's changed now is the bottom six are very strong. The bottom six, when we played, weren't strong, and there was very, very little between the top of the Championship and the bottom six of the Premier League. And I think now that gulf is huge.
I think that's what we're really seeing, aren't we? I mean, if we take Palace where you're working, Wolves, they're probably in a false position given the players they've got, and it's going to be hard for us. How do you, just to close out, how do you feel the rest of the season's going for us? Have we got a chance for survival? How are you feeling? You've seen a lot of us.
Ipswich will stay up, 100%.
Fantastic.
Tell you now, they'll stay up. They'll get 42, 43, 45 points, I believe. I think there's no pressure on them. Because they've been outside the Premier League so long. If you look at Leicester, what they do, they just sacked their manager, and they're 2-3 places above. So there's no pressure on Ipswich. Everything is a sort of almost a free hit, and the way they play football, and I think the one or two of the individuals have got to really taken to the Premier League. I don't think staying up will be a problem at all.
That's great to hear, and certainly for a large portion of the first half, we were the dominant home team, weren't we? And you could sort of see that we were in control, and we were really giving it to Manchester United for a long period, which is great to see. Well, listen, thanks so much, Scully, for coming on. Some really good insights and some views there, and a bit of positivity at the end as well. So thanks so much for watching TWTV again. We'll be back next week as we come from Forest, and we'll be providing another video verdict. Thanks so much for tuning in, and please like and subscribe.